Greetings, friends. Consider yourself lucky because I want to vent about current events, which everyone should know, in my opinion. Everyone should know about this, in my opinion. And it's simply the Western world, especially the United States, England as well, and the great powers of Europe, Germany, France, Italy, and others involved in endless sort of vague wars. So let's start with a rhetorical question. How does a society full of smart, decent people end up waging war for 30 years with no clear goal, no legal basis, and no end in sight? So we'll treat this as a systems problem. What combination of social, political, economic, cultural, and psychological factors makes it possible for a ruling class to wage long, aimless, even illegal wars while most of the population tolerates or actively supports them? Below is a list of factors that I've come up with. Now, as an aside, I post most of my stuff on bitshoot.com. So if you're listening to this on BitChute and you can afford to give money to those people, to that organization, please do so because they're kind enough to put my stuff on their video platform. I have a couple of things on YouTube, but the algorithm makes it so that almost nobody watches my stuff. So most of my stuff is on BitChute, and I might have like 2 or 3 videos that I keep on YouTube. So let's get back to this topic, which should be self-evident to most people, but it's not. Why are we involved in all these wars, and at the same time artificial intelligence has advanced so much so that we could actually theoretically or hypothetically, probably better said hypothetically, we could create a much better world? How come we're so stuck on these endless, aimless wars that are absolutely, in my opinion, not based on the principle of self-defense? This isn't just a failure of leadership. It's a system of incentives, narratives, institutions, and fears that makes it not only possible but predictable. Endless war is what happens when power, profit, fear, and narrative align, and there's nothing left strong enough to stop them. People don't support endless wars because they love killing. They support it because they're afraid, confused, and trying to survive emotionally. So, concerning the political and legal enabling mechanisms, we have legal ambiguity and emergency powers. We have the normalization and bureaucratic momentum, such as Congress and Parliament rubber stamping everything. Oversight bodies don't look at classified budgets. War becomes routine. There's not a vote, no debate, just updates. Then you have the delegitimization of opposition. So if someone such as myself says, this is strange, how come we could hypothetically have like a much better world and everybody is sort of pointing at everybody else and afraid because, perhaps they're the quote terrorist, end quote, without even really knowing what terrorist even means, according to the old definition of the term. Delegitimization of opposition. Internal dissenters are framed as patriotic traitors, terrorists or dangerous, reducing their social legitimacy, and chilling public protest. Then you have the psychological and cultural mechanisms. You have manufactured or exaggerated external threats. Real or invented threats are presented as existential. People accept extraordinary measures when they believe survival is at stake. Then you have nationalism, militarism, and ritualized identity. Support the troops. Cultural narratives valorize sacrifice, heroism, and unity. War is framed as moral or sacred duty. Support the troops, support the troops. Then you have fear and threat amplification. Real or perceived insecurity coming from terrorism, crime, economic collapse amplifies willingness to accept harsh policies and war. Then you have social structure and social capital. Atomization then weakens civil society. So this is where you get atomization and weakened civil society. All the people around me, I think they're like afraid of me, my neighbors, you know what I mean? So we're atomized, and the society, the people don't even know the names. Like I know my neighbors' names. I think they're afraid of me for some reason. So you got the decline of civic organizations, local ties, and cross-cutting institutions means fewer spaces for collective action and resistance. You have polarization and identity bifurcation. Deep social divides make broad coalitions for peace difficult. Opposition is fragmented and distrustful of the other groups. So they've turned the narrative here in the U.S. to LGBTQ versus whole-scale assault on the illegals, who are all apparently terrorists or mafiosi or whatever stupid thing. So they divide everybody up. And you got information silos and selective exposure. People live in echo chambers that reinforce pro-war frames and make corrective information marginalized. Practical mechanics that enable, quote, aimless, end quote, long wars. You got secret budgets and unaccountable contractors, off-balance sheet funding and private military contractors hide costs and diffuse responsibility. International complicity or indifference. So, for example, why do we gotta help people in the Middle East? Why don't they help themselves? Allies or external powers provide diplomatic cover, financing, or market access that reduces external pressure to stop. That may have not been explained well, but I don't want to really get too intimate with all this stuff too. And I want to sort of keep it brief. And this stuff should be self-explanatory at this point. Legalistic framing and reinterpretation of law. Law is reinterpreted to appear lawful while violating prior norms and treaties. So, for example, a collective criminalization of all illegals may substitute for an incompetent, violent crime law. This is a pet peeve of mine, where if they'd only punish violent criminals competently, we wouldn't have to make a completely ridiculous argument of get rid of all the illegals. You know, we could work on that slowly, but you know, please do what you can in cities such as New York City, Chicago, and a bunch of other places, Memphis. You know, get your laws competent, you know, because otherwise I personally think you're doing it on purpose. You got them on purpose for ulterior motives. Or Concerning legalistic framing and reinterpretation of law, the courts deferred to, quote, national security for 30 years. The reason why I'm even giving you this talk is because I'm tired of talking to my friends and venting on them with these 30-year wars and stuff. It's enough is enough. It's got to stop now. I'm getting tired of all this ridiculous, retarded stuff by all these people who are the ruling classes and their puppets. How does the ruling class get public acceptance, mechanisms of consent? For one, their propaganda and framing machine spends billions of dollars with simplified narratives like, quote, we're defending freedom, end quote, or fighting terrorism. So they make very complex causes, which probably they don't even know about because they're probably just concerned about making money and resource theft and things like that. They make it emotionally resonant so that people get all bent out of shape, including myself. Not now, but they make it emotionally resonant. And then they give you material incentives so you can get jobs, go do this, help support the troops, you get a job, you get a tax break, you definitely get a tax break, things like that. Scapegoating and diversion. Blame internal problems on an external or internal enemy to divert attention from elite responsibility. Then you got legal penalties and repression. Laws restricting protest, surveillance, or arrests and intimidation, silence or punish organized opposition. So, we'll get to the end of this here. I don't want to go too long with it. But like I said, as an aside, if you're watching this on BitChute and you have like $1 or $2 and you know how to send it to them, you might want to send it to them because perhaps they'll be bigger than YouTube in the future, but right now they're as small as a microscopic microbe. So what are the early warning signs in a society that this has happened, where you have declining press freedom and rising secret budgets, laws curtailing protest, assembly, and free speech under security pretexts, consolidation of media ownership and social media, surge in propaganda framing and dehumanizing language about target groups. I want to look at the bright side too. So institutional safeguards that reduce this risk. Free, plural media and protections for whistleblowers. Robust civil society, labor unions, and cross-cutting social institutions. Education that teaches media literacy, civic responsibility, and critical thinking. Endless war isn't just a policy failure. It's what happens when fear is more powerful than truth, when profit is more powerful than principle, and when the public is too divided or too distracted to resist. The question isn't how did this happen? It's what are we doing right now that makes the next 30-year war not only possible but inevitable. And that's pretty much spot on, because I think we got another like 25 years of it if we continue what we're doing right now. Many people are unaware of the deeper causes behind today's crisis. Global powers focused on military conflict creates endless conflict, while everyday people suffer quietly through inflation and economic mismanagement. Systemic corruption and poor leadership have set the stage for financial chaos. And as history shows, it's the public that pays the price. Now more than ever, we need clear thinking and steady action. Long, aimless wars are almost always the product of many interacting causes: profit motives, institutional capture and propaganda, cultural narratives, legal manipulation, and ordinary psychological dynamics. Any durable solution must address these layers together, strengthening institutions, reducing perverse incentives, rebuilding civic ties, and ensuring information integrity. Thank you for listening.